Welcome back to another Reddit Stories video. Tonight's stories will take you deep into the dark corners of reality, places where logic breaks and nightmares take root. You'll hear about a gambler who got mysterious Zelle payments that led him into a deadly game, a traveler checking into a motel that shouldn't exist, and a father whose children turned out to be something far worse. Then there's the toll booth worker haunted by a driver long dead, a woman whose antique dress bleeds to warn her of danger, and an explorer who discovers a creature that wears its victims like puppets. These are the stories that remind us some truths are more terrifying than fiction. All of these accounts are taken directly from users who claim these experiences are verified and all too real. Whether you're studying, trying to sleep, or just need something to keep you on edge, these stories are perfect for you. I was at my lowest point when the money started arriving. I'm a recovering gambling addict in Philadelphia, and one morning I woke up to a notification. $1,000 Zelle received. It came from an untraceable number, and within minutes, my $67,000 credit card debt was just gone. I thought it was a glitch, but the bank had no record of the transactions. For 2 weeks, the money hit my account every day at exactly 8:55 a.m. Things took a dark turn on my daughter's birthday. After she told me she never wanted to see me again, I received a $15,000 Zelle with a memo, 118 Canopy Lane. I met a woman named Riley there who was also getting the payments. She drove me, blindfolded, to an abandoned warehouse. Inside, it was a nightmare casino. A dealer forced me to play blackjack, but the stakes weren't just money. My hand was locked in a metal machine that would sever a finger for every loss. I watched my own landlord, Walter, die at that table when his hand was blown off because he couldn't stay awake. Eventually, I met Elias, the man behind it all. He claimed this was therapy. He used trauma to force addicts to associate gambling with survival. Riley and I both survived, but 6 months later, I found out the truth. Riley was working for my father the whole time to monitor me. I haven't stepped into a casino since. I almost didn't stop at the Pineview Motel. I was driving through rural Pennsylvania late at night and was just too tired to continue. The woman behind the desk looked slightly off, like a picture where the proportions weren't right. She gave me room 4. At 2 a.m., I heard rhythmic footsteps on the gravel outside my window. I stayed under the blankets, too scared to look. In the morning, the woman told me room 6 had been empty for a long time, even though I could see rectangular shapes through the window. I tried the door to room 6. It was unlocked. Inside, the walls were covered in photos of people sleeping. I found a photo of myself from the night before, time-stamped 2:17 a.m. But the scariest part? There was a shadow at the foot of my bed in the photo that wasn't mine. I checked the address on my receipt later, but I've never been able to find that motel on a map again. Today, my son broke character. Breakfast that morning was too quiet. My 3 kids, Jonas, Zach, and Callie, usually fight, but they were sitting in guilty silence. Suddenly, Jonas looked at me with hollow eyes and said, "Dad's hurting us." He led me upstairs and showed me chains under their beds. Then he told me the most insane thing I've ever heard. He said 5 years ago, he was a 15-year-old actor in LA when a man offered him $500 a week to pretend to be my son. He said they weren't my children at all. They were prisoners who just wanted to go home to Texas. As they tried to walk toward the fence to leave, I didn't cry. I reached into my jeans and pulled out my gun. I pressed it against Callie's head and started laughing. I buried my children once, I told them. I was the one who ran the auditions. I was the one who chose them. The real horror of the graveyard shift at a toll booth is the isolation. I work at KM 214 on the Saravelha Highway in Brazil. At 2:14 a.m., an old Chevy Monza pulled up. The driver's skin was clammy and rancid, and he handed me a wet, torn 20 Reais bill. An hour later, the same car passed through my booth again. Same driver, same smell of rot. He handed me the exact same bill, the serial numbers were identical. I radioed Highway Patrol, and Sergeant Matias told me that car plate, KJN 4091, had been in a fatal accident at 11:45 p.m. The driver's skull had been crushed, and he'd been underwater for 3 hours. The car returned a third time. I hid on the floor of my booth as a wet, gurgling voice whispered, "Open the gate." Something started banging against the glass. When the police arrived, they found a clump of human hair and a splinter of skull bone crusted onto my window. The dead always pay their toll. My name is Camila, and I bought an emerald green silk dress from an antique store called the Moth's Trunk. The owner warned me never to wash it with hot water and to listen if it gave me a warning. On a date with a lawyer named Raphael, he got aggressive with a waiter. Suddenly, I felt a warm dampness on my chest. The dress was bleeding from a small patch over my heart. There were no cuts on my skin, the blood was coming from the fabric. Later, during an argument, Raphael punched a mirror near my head. The dress didn't just stain, this time it hemorrhaged. Thick, sticky blood soaked my stomach. I went back to the shop and learned the truth. The dress belonged to a woman named Helena, who was murdered by her husband in 1984. The dress weeps every time it senses the aggressive energy of a monster. That dress saved my life. My best friend Noah died 20 years ago, and I still blame myself. We were urban explorers in the Midwest and decided to check out an abandoned grain elevator. The place smelled like heavy decay. Inside, we found hairless animal carcasses and eventually the top half of a human head frozen to the floor. As we tried to run, a basketball-sized wad of hair, a parasite, ejected itself from a nearby corpse. It launched at Noah and crawled into his mouth. Its tendrils sliced his cheeks open as it forced its way down his throat. I was too terrified to move. I ran and left him there. Noah was cremated, so I hope that thing burned with him, but every time I drive by those elevators, I wonder if the puppeteer is still looking for a new host. And that wraps up today's terrifying true Reddit stories. Which of these accounts creeped you out the most? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching to the very end, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.